Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be building this Kitech AH-1Z in 1/72nd scale. So, before we get started on the actual build commentary, I'd like to note some things about this kit. So, this kit was actually released in 2000 or 2002, I'm not entirely sure. That's what ScaleMate says, so I'll be trusting them on this. This kit, I believe it was released before the actual unveiling of the AH-1Z to the public, because there's many aspects of this kit which are very wrong on the AH-1Z. So for starters, the exhaust is totally inaccurate. So there's nothing correct there, and there's also missing pieces that missing sections of the helicopter that should be there but aren't there. And another thing I noticed is how small the kit is. It is actually smaller than the AH-1Z in that's supposed to be in 1/72nd scale. The decals are also oversized for this kit. So what I'm guessing is that Kitech made this kit before they knew everything about the AH-1Z and they just estimated it. This does sometimes happen with kits, so they are released before the aircraft is made or completely unveiled. I'm sure this has happened to other companies, but it's very prominent here. And as far as my research went, I found out that Kitech is a Chinese company, so I don't know if that's related to anything. I'm just stating that. But it did have its positives. The decals were pretty nice, and I did not have any issues with the carrier film whatsoever, and with silvering, so that's a positive. But the negatives really outweigh the positives when it came to this kit, and that was especially noticeable on the quality of the plastic and the fitment and every other aspect on this kit. Maybe there wasn't enough research made, but you know, if you want an AH-1Z, you should never go for this. This is completely wrong. It's inaccurate. It's just not it. You should really go for. I know there's plenty of other AH-1Zs out there in various scales, which are more accurate than this one. So, without further ado, I'll start commentating. So, we finally started on the actual interior of the kit. It was pretty nice actually. There is quite a bit of detail, and there's one more thing I'd like to note, is that what I've looked up a bit more about Kitech on the internet, and I noticed that a lot of people are saying that Kitech is just copying other companies and just stealing their product and making it cheaper and with poorer quality and with worse plastic and everything like that. So I'm sure that's the case because I noticed how bad this kit is. So I don't really, please don't buy any kits that are from Kitech. There's plenty of other alternatives. I'm lucky I found these for cheap. I got them very cheap, so I'm actually happy with my purchase because this was an experience I wouldn't have gotten any other way. But if you're looking to buy proper kits, don't do what I did. You can also see, you will also be able to see on the final photos how sloppy the end result is. I kinda just gave up at the end and just decided to just throw everything at the kit to just call it done and actually start with something that I know I would enjoy, because this, although I've been waiting to build this kit somewhat, it really let me down in more ways than one, and I'm really disappointed with this kit, and I think my disappointment really reflects with the end result and how sloppy some aspects of the kit really turned out, because I kind of just gave up at the end. So I know if you're building a model, you should commit all the way. Please don't give up like I did. Please don't just start throwing everything at it, and then because you'll regret it, you'll regret not paying more attention to it. You would want it to look good even if it's inaccurate or if it's a bad kit, but I kind of just lost my patience. I decided to just say F it, and it just turned out how it turned out, and that's that. The kit won't be seeing the light of day anyway, so it's fine. So this is the finished cockpit of the helicopter, and I think I did a pretty good job with it. I will also be adding some dry brushing to the instruments on the sides to highlight them a bit more, and that's about it. Now, the fuselage halves were then cut off the sprues, and they do actually come in two sections: the main fuselage and the section where the rotor blades are supposed to be. Now, this is what I found interesting. The instruction manual tells you to cut these parts off the back section of the helicopter, and then you're supposed to glue another piece in and then place it back on the fuselage. So if you are doing this, I would recommend just not cutting it off. I think you can do it by not cutting it off, and I did lose one half of it, and I had to replace it with something else. So it's a weird design choice for sure. Next, I'll be gluing the last pieces of detail into the cockpit, and then I'll be finally joining the two fuselage halves. When it came to gluing the two fuselage halves, I did glue them in sections so that the fit would be nicer. So I added glue to the back section first, and then just move up the fuselage with the glue and just use masking tape to hold everything in place. When it came to caps and seam lines, there were quite a bit of them, but I didn't really bother with filling any of them, especially after I was kind of done with the kit, so I just decided to just leave it be. Now I'm gluing on the very inaccurate exhausts. I'll pop an image on the screen with the actual AH-1Z, and you'll see what I'm talking about. When I was looking up images of the AH-1Z, I noticed a thing. The kit is wrongly listed as a AH-1Z. The kit actually depicts the AH-1W by Super Cobra, and it's actually a different helicopter. The exhausts do line up when it comes to that, but the kit falsely advertises it as a AH-1Z Viper. So that's why I was going on the whole AH-1Z thing. Of course, all of the aspects are still wrong, like the decals and that, but now at least I know why the exhausts look so off, even though it's supposed to be an AH-1Z. I'll be gluing the back rotor blade on right now. I'll now be assembling the mast that connects the main rotor blade to the actual fuselage. So the first thing I did when it came to painting is I primed the whole model in Tamiya XF1 flat black. While I'm painting the helicopter, please excuse the blurry shots and the fact that the airbrush does get in the way of the actual painting most of the footage here. I didn't actually notice this until after I actually finished recording, so I do apologize for that, and you just have to bear with the footage here. It's unfortunate that it happened this way. Here you can see me using a technique where I fill out the panels with some paint first, and then I'll be misting over another layer of paint so that I do get some color differences and some color modulation on the kit. And I think I did manage to do it, even though it is quite subtle. Painting the upper sections of the helicopter in the other color, in the dark gray color, which I do think is supposed to be a bluish gray, but it's fine. I think I messed up the painting ratio, the color ratio a bit, the mixing ratio, and the paint came out a bit too thin. As you can see, there's quite a bit of splashing going on, and that will be even more prominent on the winglets. So I do manage to fix it with a brush, so I do go back and do some touch-ups, but it is unfortunate that it happened this way, and I need to work on this skill with my airbrush, with the precision, so that will be a thing that I'll be touching on in the future. And lastly, I'll be painting some of the armament in its intended colors. I'll be using this it's Russian green to paint the missiles, the anti-tank missiles, and I'll be also painting two air-to-air missiles, and that's about it. Now I'm spraying on a gloss varnish before applying the decals. Here you can see just how big the decals are and how inaccurate they are. So there are some decals that are, I think, an okay size, but most of them are very big, and they don't fit in their corresponding places. The instruction manual shows the decals being smaller than they actually are in reality, so that's another big issue with this kit. And now finally I'll be gluing on the main rotor in preparations for weathering and the final stages of the kit. I did sadly lose the footage of the weathering of this kit, but you can see just how messy and sloppy it is, and you can tell that I didn't really pay any attention to it. But thank you all for sticking around with me to the end of this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.